Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Miss Business and I am currently 2 weeks postpartum. I was obviously for the last 2 weeks, I was really busy with my newborn, so I didn't have time to do my labor and delivery story um, as well as the postpartum updates. So I'm gonna kind of combine both of them into one video. So sorry if it's long or if you think it's boring, you can just turn it off. But here I go. So 2 weeks ago, it was exactly, well, 2 weeks and one day. So on Monday night, I went to the hospital because I went to the doctor on Monday morning and I told them that I was feeling like more preeclampsia um, symptoms with the blurry vision and like the swellingness. It was like up to my face, like under my eyes, and I could like barely, walk around, but I was still working and I just felt like miserable. So they told me, go to the hospital and they'll see if they can, induce you today. So I went home, I took all my bags, I ate something, I showered, and I was just like ready to give birth. So I went to the hospital and they asked me like all the pre-delivery questions, like what I'm gonna do with the placenta, what I'm gonna do with the umbilical cord, if I wanted to do the umbilical cord banking, which I didn't. I just decided to like donate it to the hospital. And then they asked me, I don't know, like a bunch of questions that like I was getting like more excited because I was just so ready to give birth. And then they put me into a triage room and then they checked my cervix and it was actually like still pretty thick, and they can't give you the dilating medicine until your cervix is really thinned out. So they told me that if I wanted to give birth, they were going to have to thin out my cervix first, then dilate it, and then the contractions were going to start. So I agreed to it, and I think it was like about 5 p.m. and they started giving me the medicine to thin it out, and I couldn't like really feel anything. It was actually no symptoms at all. So that lasted until 10 a.m. the next day. And then once it was thin enough, they wanted to start like dilating me. I mean, I was already 30% dilated, but I mean 3 centimeters, sorry. I was 3 centimeters dilated, but that wasn't enough. So they started giving me like the Pitocin, and that made it so that my cervix would dilate more up to 10 centimeters, which is what you need if you want to give birth. So they did that until about, I don't know, for a couple hours, and then they wanted to speed it up. So they put it's called a Foley bulb. So they put like a balloon and they put it with like liquid, and it that makes you dilate because of like the pressure that it puts like on your cervix. So they started like filling out the balloons, but as the balloons were filling out, it actually like broke my waters. So, which is not what it was supposed to do, but that's just what happened. And then like I started feeling like more and more like the contraction from the Pitocin, and it actually like escalated pretty quickly. Like it went from like uncomfortable to like holy shit, like I need an epidural. So I asked them for the epidural like ASAP, and it took them like a little while to send like the anesthesiologist, but once they did, they put me with a guy who was teaching somebody else how to do it, and the guy who was like the student was the one that was doing the epidural on me. So like there was a guy like behind him that was just coaching him, and so he does the epidural, and I still like feel it like pretty violently, like the contractions, and I keep telling them like I think that the epidural is not working. So they keep doing like this pokey test where they like poke you on the leg and then they poke you up and up and up and up and they see like where you start feeling it. And because the epidural only numbs like the lower half of your body, and I could feel everything on my left side and nothing on the right side, but they, for some reason, they kind of like didn't believe me, so they just kept putting more medicine into like the epidural like reservoir or whatever, and it was just like getting unbearable. And like finally I was like, honestly, like I feel everything on the left side, there's something wrong with it. So after 2 hours of like really painful like contractions, they finally sent another anesthesiologist in, and she actually told me that I had scoliosis, which is like a curvature of the spine, and that because of that, they had done it right on one side and not on the other side. So she does like the epidural the second time, which didn't really hurt because like my right side was already like pretty numb. So after that, there's like a couple hours, I mean maybe like one or two, where I was still having contractions, and then um, I mean I couldn't really feel anything, but I could still feel like like the pressure. So I kept like hitting the button for it to like give me more and give me more. And then this lady comes in and she was like, when you start pushing, we're going to give you like the secret weapon. We're going to give you like something that you won't feel anything. It's going to be great. So I was like, yes, like I can't wait to start pushing so I can have like the extra painkiller. So turns out the secret painkiller was fentanyl, which is what they put in heroin to make it like stronger. But in like when it's administered properly, it's actually like you can't feel anything, and it's actually really safe. So I was like happy about that. Um, and then the doctor is like, start pushing. So I'm like, okay, well, I need the fentanyl. And she was like, well, I don't think that it's good because it's gonna like slow down your pushing. So I was like, please give it to me. And she was like, start pushing without the drugs, and then if you really need it, we're gonna give it to you. So in all the movies that I saw, when the ladies are delivering, they're always like, their feet are always like touching the bed, their legs are bent, and they're just like pushing. They had me like, every time I had a contraction, I had to pull my legs up and back and hold my head like up, like I was doing a setup, and at the same time hold my breath and push as hard as I could 3 times 10 seconds. So it was just like draining. Like I can't even like describe how like uncomfortable it was to just like be in that position, let alone be like pushing. So every time I had a contraction, I would push. So I pushed for, I don't know, like a good hour, and then I couldn't do it anymore. Like I was like, give me the drugs, and she wouldn't. And there the my temperature was raising, and if I had like a fever, that could mean like a C-section. So she just didn't want me to slow down on the pushing. So she was like, you have to keep going, you have to keep going. And I was like, I can't, I physically cannot, I cannot. But I was like still doing it until finally I start like screaming at everybody, like telling my mom to stop counting, telling my boyfriend like he's not holding my head right. And then she finally comes out, which was like the the biggest like relief ever. Like, but I don't like see her right away. Like I was just like so in shock that she like finally comes out, and then they like put her on my chest, and she's like blue purple, and they start like shaking her and stuff so that like she can breathe. And then finally we just like make eye contact, and it was like the most like magical moment I've ever experienced. Like it was so like crazy to like finally meet her after her being like in my belly for that long, that it's just like I forgot, literally I forgot about all the pain. Like it just didn't matter anymore. And then yeah, that's the labor and delivery. After that, um, they delivered the placenta, and then after that they kept like pushing down on my stomach, and like blood was coming out, and it was, I mean, it was kind of nasty, I'm not gonna lie. um, I actually didn't know that after delivering you actually bleed out for like 6 weeks. So right away, like they put me, it's not like a diaper, but it's like a huge pad, like that goes from like front to back so that like it doesn't leak out. And they put me like an ice pack in my underwear. And they were like, oh, like don't go to the bathroom alone, like you might faint. But like I just felt like so relieved and like so light that I just, I just wanted to like run a marathon. Um, I didn't have any tearing. I didn't have any stitches, which I'm so grateful for, because apparently that really hurts, like when you pee after, because of obvious reason, like it's like an open wound. So now, 2 weeks postpartum, here are my symptoms. So right after I delivered, like I couldn't feel it because of the epidural, but the morning after, like my tailbone felt like it had been stabbed like 1,000 times. Like it, I mean, it still hurts now. Like when I get up, it just, I feel like when she came out, it's something that she like moved out of place or something. But honestly, if that's like the biggest symptom I have, I don't really mind, and it's getting better and better, not worse. So I'm just like living with it. But that's definitely like my biggest symptoms that I had. My second symptom is kind of a mental one. I've been having a lot of anxiety, about like the future, about her, about like leaving her out of my sight even for like, half an hour. I don't really like trust people to take her into like another room. I just like always want her like next to me, near me, because it's just like I feel like it's my responsibility. Well, it is. It's not a feeling, to make sure that she's safe, and I feel like I just need to be like next to her at all times to be able to ensure that she's safe. I've been having really crazy dreams still, which I don't know if it's the hormones or if it's just the anxiety, but I've been having some wild dreams. The other symptom is I've had really dry skin, which I think that's definitely the hormones. So I've been putting like still my belly butter all over my body, but it's like I need to apply it like 2 or 3 times a day because my skin just gets like so dry. Another symptom which just came up like today, or actually last night, is I think I have some clogged milk ducts. And I know that because it's like a really like painful area here. And when I was breastfeeding yesterday, like it felt like some muscle was like tearing inside. And when I read online about it, they said hot compresses help, and also like breastfeeding more often, which I don't think that's my problem because she eats like every 2 3 hours, and I don't know why it's clogged, but I think it may be because I always breastfeed in the same position, which is like laying on my side, because my tailbone like really hurts. And I mean, it doesn't hurt right now because of like the angle I'm sitting, but when I'm breastfeeding, I'm like more leaning back, and that really like puts pressure on my tailbone. So I read that changing the position should help because it's gonna drain like other, ducts like more evenly. So I might try that tonight because it's really sore and it's kind of hurting, to be honest. The other symptom I have is extreme thirst, um, where especially like when she starts drinking, it's just like automatic. Like I feel like I need like some water right away, and I think that's normal because she's taking the water with the milk, and yeah, so I've just been drinking like extra water. The last symptom I'm going to talk about is stretch marks. So I didn't have any stretch marks the whole time that I was pregnant, which I was so thankful for. But after I delivered, a week after, I started wearing like my belly band, and I feel like the belly band actually pushed like the fat down, and it made stretch marks in like the bottom, like my lower stomach. But they weren't really deep, and they appeared like overnight. So I started putting like extra belly butter. I did egg white mask, where I put like egg white all over them, and then I wrapped it in saran wrap for like 30 minutes, and that kind of like faded them. But I'm open to like any suggestions. If you guys have any, just like send me a message or write in the comments, because I really don't like stretch marks. I mean, who does? Um, but yeah, let me know, some fellow mamas, or even if you're not a mom and you have stretch mark, please let me know like how you can fade them, get rid of them, whatever works. So I also wanted to address one last thing before I go. It's why I won't be sharing pictures of my baby, and that's because even though I'm really open on social media and I post, my good share of pictures, I just don't think that she's old enough to be like on social media, and I feel like it's just such like, I mean, a sensitive and like precious time, that I just don't want to put pictures. I mean, I will eventually, but right now I just don't feel the need to post any pictures. But I wanted you guys to know that she's healthy and beautiful and everything that I had ever hoped for in a baby. Alright, so I will try to do a postpartum update next week, so that you guys can keep following my journey, if that interests you. Bye!